Well, hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to the Daily Dose. My name is Spencer Osborn. I have the privilege of being the pastor of the high school ministry out at the Fallbrook campus. So excited to be continuing through this Daily Dose series of fear and this idea of do not be afraid. Now, in Isaiah chapter 41:10, it says, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God." And this idea of do not be afraid, do not fear. And I feel like fear is one of those headspaces. That's certainly an emotion, a presence that a lot of us can relate to. Personally, for me, I'll let you in on a little secret. I'm afraid of horses. All right, there, I said it. They make me nervous. I don't know what it is about horses. They're big, they're strong, they're heavy, they have a mind of their own. They're beautiful creatures, but I just don't trust them. Now, when my wife Taylor and I were dating, I knew that she loved horses. And so I decided, hey, let's go horseback riding. And so I got it all scheduled, got it all set up, and we were gonna ride horses. Now, as we're getting ready to get onto these horses, I confide in her and I let her know, hey, horses make me nervous. I'm a little afraid of horses. I don't know why. And she said, okay, well, here's the trick. Just don't let the horse know that you're afraid because they can smell fear. And at the time I thought, well, that doesn't help me at all. How am I supposed to just not be afraid of something? It's almost that you would never be effective going to somebody who's just weeping in sorrow after a heartbreak or a loss and say, well, have you tried just not being sad anymore? That's not going to be effective. And sometimes I read scripture like this in the same way where he says, do not be afraid. And it's said over and over and over again in the Bible. In fact, over 360 times we can find a verse that will say either do not be afraid or fear not. And it seems ineffective until you read the second part of that Isaiah 41:10, and it continues. It says, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." See, God isn't just telling us to simply stop being afraid because he understands it's a part of the human experience for us, and sometimes it's inevitable. But he's offering us hope in saying, look, it's understandable to be afraid, but don't allow fear to be your master. Don't allow fear to motivate your decisions. Don't allow fear to direct your life. Why? Because I am more powerful than anything that you could possibly be afraid of. Because the things that you are afraid of in this world, I have already claimed victory over. And maybe it's a fear of rejection. Maybe it's a fear of not measuring up. Maybe it's a fear of failure. And God says you don't have to be afraid of those things. Why? Because your identity is not wrapped up in those things. Your identity is not wrapped up in the approval of others. It can be found in me. And when you find your identity in your Creator, there's a confidence that you can find in that. God says, do not be afraid. Rather, find your confidence, find your identity, find your hope and your trust in me. In 1 John 4:18, it says, there is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear. And so even more, it's telling us, turn to God in those fearful moments when fear is overtaking you, turn to him. Why? Because love isn't just what God does, it's part of who he is. Part of his nature is love. And the nature of love, a characteristic of perfect love, is that it drives out fear. Now, I know that there are things that you are uncertain of. I know that there are things that you're afraid of today, in this week, in this season of life. But the hope that we have in Scripture is God reassuring us time and time again. He understands that we will be afraid, but he's convincing us. He's pleading with us, don't allow fear to be your master. Put your trust in me. Put your hope in me. And I hope that can encourage you today.